Poor friends realized their sisters after DNA test. When the pair snapped that selfie, it changed everything they thought they knew. After that fateful evening, the two women went on with their lives, despite the fact that they both had an unshakable feeling that something much larger was going on. And somewhere, a mother turned in her grave. Rochelle Dyer and Christelle Arthur had that indescribable connection that only twins can know. The sisters did everything together while they were growing up in Washington state. They finished each other's sentences, dressed alike, and shared everything in their lives. When Rochelle had to leave, it left a gaping void in both of their hearts. In 2004, Rochelle, her husband, and their son left Seattle. Rochelle had accepted a teaching position at Tallwood Elementary School in Virginia Beach. Of course, she had no idea that she had just taken the first step in a chain of events that would take 10 years to unfold. Fate had wanted her in Virginia for a reason she wouldn't know until much later. Rochelle had left the rest of her family in Washington, including her beloved twin sister, Christelle. She wanted to pursue her teaching career. But, as anyone who has ever tried to start a new life in a strange and unfamiliar town will know, she was having trouble adjusting. And she kept having to answer the same strange question. Although neither Rochelle nor her sister had ever been to Virginia before, people kept insisting that they knew her. They kept asking if she'd been in the area sometime in the past, but Rochelle's puzzling answer was always no, she'd grown up in Washington, practically on the other side of the country. Little did Rochelle know, she was about to unlock Pandora's box. And this question was the key. Rochelle missed her sister terribly, and she didn't know anyone in Virginia. But she was determined to embrace this new life she'd carved out for herself. Putting her heartache aside, she threw herself into her work. The faculty at Tallwood Elementary seemed to take an instant liking to her, which made things considerably easier. But she'd soon find out why. Rochelle made a few new friends, but everyone she met insisted that they'd seen her before. She started to think that she must just have one of those faces. It was annoying to her that nobody in this town seemed to be able to just let it go. In fact, the people around her were only growing more persistent. Luckily, one day, their persistence paid off. A few of Rochelle's coworkers thought they had finally made the connection. They told her that she looked just like another woman who had previously worked at the same school. A few of Rochelle's coworkers thought they had finally made the connection. They told her that she looked just like another woman who had previously worked at the same school. Shannon had left Tallwood Elementary and was currently teaching at nearby Kings Grant Elementary. Soon, the news of the mysterious new woman in Virginia who looked just like her and had, in fact, replaced her, was all over the school. Shannon and Rochelle's friends began to hatch a plan for the two to meet, but they could never have imagined the consequences. People showed Rochelle pictures of her doppelganger working at Kings Grant. And she had to admit they did share similar features. But she brushed it off as just that, the two women looked similar. Similarly, Shannon didn't give their resemblance any more thought and chalked it down to a wild coincidence. In fact, it only made her miss her sister Christelle even more. Until 5 years later. The truth of the entire situation would only reveal itself in 2009. It was only then that Shannon and Rochelle met for the first time. Their mutual friends had tried to make the meeting happen before but never succeeded. Country superstar Kenny Chesney was passing through the area when a golden opportunity presented itself. A mutual friend invited Shannon and Rochelle to the Kenny Chesney concert. And when their two worlds collided, there was no undoing it. When Rochelle saw Shannon for the first time, it was like looking in a mirror. The pale hair and blue eyes, the heart-shaped lips, the chin that came to a sharp point, they snapped a selfie, and the pair became fast friends after that. Rochelle and Christelle's mother must have been turning in her grave. 10 years later, in 2019, it was purely coincidental that Tallwood Elementary was running an ancestry project. And that's when the principal suggested that Rochelle take a DNA test. Being adopted, Rochelle was naturally curious about her and her sister's biological mother, but she never suspected that something as simple as an innocent DNA test would turn her world completely upside down. Unfortunately, all that the DNA test revealed was a cousin named Tracy Hall, but it was this revelation that would set Rochelle on the right path to finding her truth. She reached out to Tracy and was surprised to discover that the cousin she hadn't even known had existed knew all about her. And she had been keeping a monumental secret for years. Tracy thought carefully about revealing the secret her own mother, Sue Hall, had entrusted to her all those years ago. But secrets have a way of outing themselves. She decided it was high time that the family scandal was dragged out into the light. It was a secret that her mother had taken to the grave, and Tracy didn't want to hang on to the burden anymore. With a shaking voice, she told Rochelle everything. Tracy's mother, Sue, had a sister named Janice Moore. Rochelle listened to what Tracy told her with bated breath. She knew that she was about to finally unlock the truth of her identity. But did she really want to know? She had thought about it long and hard and had decided that she had to know she needed to know who her mother had been and where she had come from. And Tracy was more than ready to spill all the details. Tracy then went on to tell Rochelle that her sister, Janice, had given birth to twin girls. Unfortunately, she was unable to care for them and decided to put them up for adoption. These twin babies were Rochelle and her sister, Christelle. This news was hardly a revelation, as Rochelle knew that she and her sister had been adopted. But now, at least, she knew who her mother was. Tracy continued, but what she revealed next shattered Rochelle's world. When Janice had found out that she was pregnant with twins in the 1960s, she had made a tough decision to give them up. Their father had abandoned her, and she couldn't give her babies the life they deserved. 2 years later, Janice fell in love with a man named Dean Holy, and they married and started a family. It turned out that Janice had given birth to another pair of twins just a few years after she had given Rochelle and her sister up. Rochelle was floored to hear that these women were living in Virginia Beach. Their names were Lisa Holy and Shannon Nickel. When Rochelle heard Shannon's name, it was like a bolt from the blue. Rochelle started to shake and her face turned white. She pulled out her phone and started dialing. When Rochelle told Shannon the news, she was in complete shock. Lisa and I had no idea at all that our mother had even given birth to twins in the past. She also added, Rochelle and her sister knew that they were adopted all these years, so for us, it was pretty mind-blowing. What the supposed friends had felt for each other was far more than friendship, it was a family bond. Janice was determined to do the best thing for the twins, and we always wondered about them, Tracy revealed in an interview. So it was a wonderful surprise when Rochelle made contact. The 4 siblings wasted no time, and once the initial shock wore off, they were eager to try to be siblings in earnest. And when they all met up in person, the similarities didn't end with appearances. All 4 siblings spoke in a similar manner, and they shared particular likes and dislikes. When one of them spoke, another would finish the sentence. It was remarkable and uncanny how alike the 4 siblings were. Both of my children came to the dinner, and every time the 4 of us would laugh, they put their hands over their mouths because they couldn't believe how much we sounded alike. I mean, we were finishing each other's sentences, Shannon remarked. But there were more strange coincidences that the 4 women shared. Shannon describes just one instance of the startling coincidences the sisters shared. My husband's dad's birthday is the same as our birth mother's. Our mom had a pilot's license, and my husband's mom did too. All this is mind-boggling, but it's so very wonderful. But now that the long-lost sisters have found each other, will they make up for the years they spent apart? The sisters will continue to spend holidays together as one big family, and their reunion has also helped Shannon and Lisa overcome the enormous loss of their mother, Janice. For us, with losing mom recently, she was Thanksgiving, she was Christmas, she was all of those things and made it everything. There's been that void there, but now we feel like we have a piece of her. But the sisters believe that it wasn't merely a coincidence that they finally found each other. All 4 of us feel like she's had a big hand in this, getting us all together at this time in our lives. We all really needed it, Rochelle said. I've never had my own family in Virginia Beach. And Lisa and Shannon don't have the mom they grew up with there anymore. But I like to think that now they have 2 new pieces of her in me and Christelle. Unsurprisingly, the story of the 4 sisters finding each other went viral on Facebook. People were awed by the possibility of fate throwing them together again after so many years apart and were stunned that Janice, their mother, had managed to keep her secret for so long. The sisters also appeared on Good Morning America, where they shared their amazing story. Could you imagine finding not 1, but 3 siblings that you never knew existed? Of course, most people would be ecstatic. As of 2018, home DNA tests were submitted by 25 million Americans, so it's no surprise that stories like these sisters have started popping up all around the world. With access to online DNA databases, more and more people are getting in touch with their long-lost relatives.